How is precipitation formed? There are two processes in which precipitation is formed. One is the collision coalescence process. The other one is the aggregation process. With the collision coalescence process, it produces drizzle, rain, freezing rain, and sleet. How that works is the droplets fall and collect with other droplets. The bigger the droplet, the faster it falls. Once combined and big enough, the droplets will fall to the surface. So you take a warm cloud and saturated air that rises and cools. It forms condensation and creates water droplets within the clouds. The drops continue to grow and collide with other droplets. And as they grow, they get heavier, beating the upward force in the cloud and begin to move down. During the drop, they break into smaller drops while falling, which then we can see come out as drizzle, rain, freezing rain, and sleet as it falls to the surface. The aggregation process involves ice crystals, and it produces wet and dry snow as well as rain. You must have ice crystals with cold water, and when the cold water freezes, the ice crystals form and move in the cloud to connect to other ice crystals. And then the same thing happens. As the ice crystals get heavier, they fall, and that is how we see precipitation hitting the surface in the form of wet and dry snow or rain. What are the differences in rain, snow, sleet, and hail? Well, rain is water droplets that fall to the ground. Freezing rain is rain that falls but freezes on contact of the surface. Sleet is rain that falls but freezes before reaching the ground. Snow is ice crystals that fall into the atmosphere, but the atmosphere has to be below freezing in order to retain the snow. And then you can also have rain within the aggregation process, and it falls as snow first but melts before hitting the ground. Hail, you must have a high updraft with the cloud freezing temps, and it is just ice crystals that fall to the ground. What is an air mass? So an air mass is a large body of air that is characterized by similarities of temperature and humidity. It can cover hundreds of thousands of square miles and formed when air is stagnant for a long period of time over a surface. There are several different types of air masses. There is the polar and Arctic air mass. The polar and Arctic air masses, which originate in high latitudes towards Earth's poles. The tropical air masses, which originate in low latitudes. The continental air masses that form over land, and then the maritime air masses that form over water. There are several different characteristics with the air masses. So as you can see, there's the maritime tropical, it's warm and humid. The maritime polar is cool and humid. So basically, depending on where the air masses fall, determine the characteristics within those air masses. Why is Oklahoma susceptible to tornadoes? Well, Oklahoma is part of what some people call Tornado Alley. Tornado Alley is just a location within the United States. So because of Oklahoma's location in the United States, it becomes more susceptible to tornado occurrences. Both the continental polar air from Canada and the maritime tropical air from the Gulf of Mexico meet right over what is known as Tornado Alley, which includes Oklahoma. The two air masses meet here in the central U.S. because there are no natural barriers separating the center of the country from the Arctic or the Gulf of Mexico. And with the two air masses meeting, it creates a very unstable environment, which then produces the tornadoes. What are the 4 weather fronts? So we have the cold fronts, the warm fronts, the stationary fronts, and then the occluded fronts. A warm front is when the surface position of a warm front moves so that warm air occupies territory formerly covered by cooler air. This brings along a gradual increase in temperature, as well as some clouds, and sometimes heavy precipitation can occur, but mostly scattered and short duration of showers when the clouds are heavy. The cold front is when dense cold air is actively advancing into a region occupied by warmer air. It normally brings heavy downpours and vigorous wind gusts, along with, of course, colder temperatures. A stationary front is where the surface position of the front does not move. And then the occluded front is an active cold front that overtakes a warm front.